Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kizma. I'm Nick, and today we are talking about the law of forgiveness. So this is a continuation of our series, Working with the Law. We've been on this one for a while, and this is one of my very favorites. For any of the resources and notes from the episode, you can find them at illuminationacademy.net/INK129.
Hello and welcome to Illumination Podcast with Nick and Kizma, bringing you ancient wisdom for modern day success so that you can have the mindset to get your life and business set.
As always, thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to the podcast, take a quick second to hit the subscribe button in iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. If you want to get the inside info for this and every episode, as well as some free gifts, go to illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. And now let's dive in to get your mindset for your life and business set. Hey there, Kizma.
Well, hello. Thank you for forgiving me for those couple of outtakes that I bombed.
They're already deleted.
They're already deleted. Kizma, I'm just so excited about this topic. So I was a little bit like ungrounded.
You got ungrounded around it?
Yeah, but I'm here.
It could also be the celebration.
The celebration?
The celebration.
Oh, my little thing.
Yeah, well, a little bit more.
Oh, we give it that. Thing. Yeah. I had this fun article in entrepreneur.com.
It's fun little article that was.
It wasn't fun. It's a really good article on 9 habits super successful people use in their life and how you can learn from them. And it really is cool. Just go to entrepreneur.com and search my name.
Yeah.
It pops up.
And it was, hit the number one spot.
Number one most popular.
I
know. I'm trying
hundreds of shares, like super cool. I think that's really cool.
It is kind of cool. It's been number one for a day and a half. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to obsess. I don't want to be competitive. I keep sharing all the other articles because, you got to practice what you preach. But, it's a really well done article. I had some support in shaping it from, give a shout out to Andrea Husbany, who was on our podcast pretty much like a month or so ago. Yeah. She was just so helpful in editing and helping me to shape it. So it is really worth checking out. We'll put it in the show notes too, but entrepreneur.com and just search my name, Kizma.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I wanted to give a shout out to the law of increase, which we've covered on in this series.
Yes, because it works.
Okay, so here's what happened is we're sitting out at dinner last night at Campfire. Great place. They had some really great new dishes on the
in Carlsbad.
And I'm hitting refresh, because I'm just curious, like how many shares, it's like 400 and whatever, and click the button, and nothing. It's not moving. And sure enough, Kizma takes her phone back and goes and shares a couple other articles.
Mine, other
people's articles. And then we click back to it. Click the button, boom.
There it was.
2, 3, 4 more shares.
It was the exact law at that moment because I knew. I mean, sometimes we know it doesn't happen right away, but I just knew it's like share somebody else's. There's mine. Share somebody else. It's, it's just what it is too. So it's been fun and looking forward to hopefully getting some more pieces up there. It's a great platform. Really great. I love their work.
Super exciting. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
And today's a big day on the podcast, guys. We're going deep. Forgiveness. Now, this is a topic that we've covered multiple times. There's a reason for that. Yeah. It's kind of a big deal.
It really is. And I think that through our work with clients, you through energy mastery and your healing and your coaching, the work I do on prosperity with my clients, we realize that forgiveness is just one of those things that is so important.
Yeah.
Like it is just for the health of the mind, body, soul. It is so important.
Tell us why.
Whoa. Well, there's a beautiful, we've been pulling from Working with the Law. And one of the quotes that I thought would be so great to kick it off with is forgiveness is the first requirement which permits man to be in harmony with the law of his being. Law of his being meaning life. To be in harmony with living life as we're to live it, not stressed, not upset, not full of anger, but to live life as a divine being. Forgiveness is a requirement.
The first requirement.
The first one. So that let me just read that again, guys, because we could just like all bliss out and be like, holy cow. Forgiveness is the first requirement which permits man, humans, this is written a while ago, to be in harmony with the law of his being. Raymond Holliwell is incredible.
Now, throughout the book, he substitutes the word God with law.
He does.
So
that's a great
when
point.
I reread this with that in mind, with the God, it's like, it's really the first requirement to help to get a person in harmony with the godhood of their being, like that true potential of yourself. It all starts with forgiveness.
That's so excellent.
And it plays a role in healing, which we're going to talk about later, like not just healing the, the mind necessarily, but truly like into the physical body.
For sure.
But what I want to talk about, a big topic that shows throughout this chapter. So if you've been reading the book and going through it, one of the words that you will see quite frequently in this chapter is sin. And sin has all kinds of weird stuff around it because of what religions have done to it and what humans have done to those teachings to convolute them and try to put it into a really narrow box of
burn in hell. You're going to burn in hell.
Yeah. It's the end of your life. You're going to burn in hell. And you'll never be accepted, or loved if you have, it's like all this crazy stuff. So we want to really, first and foremost, is define sin in this context and what it is that we're talking about.
Well, he says, a sin is a mistake, a misunderstanding, and a misjudgment. A mistake is falling short of or disobeying the law, whether that law be mechanical or spiritual.
That is exactly the quote I was looking for. Thank you.
I know. It's amazing. So if we took out all of the stuff that's been slathered on sin religiously or, end of our souls, etc., it's a mistake. It's falling short. He does say disobeying the law. But we have to understand the law is the law. And when we disobey the law, things can get a little wonky. When we use the law, right? We've talked about before, and I want to get sidetracked, but we're not changing the law. We're using the law to our benefit. So when we obey the law, we get miraculous things. We live an amazing life.
Yeah. And sin oftentimes is attributed to the action. You do this thing, and that's the wrong thing to do. Don't do that.
Right.
Okay. And I want to invite all of our listeners to explore a little bit different view on sin. So it may be uncomfortable for some of you. That's okay. We're not telling you what to believe. It's more just a matter of an invitation to say, what if?
Yeah.
And I can tell you that the way that I look at sin is not that it's in the action itself, but it is in the reaction in our mind.
Yep. Vedanta. 101.
So when you're doing something and you're having a lot of agitation in your mind, that would technically be called a sin.
Exactly.
Right? And so a lot of people will think like, okay, my mind is super agitated, but I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not sinning. Right? But when we talk about sin in this context and forgiveness, it really is about weeding out all of those things so that your mind can naturally come to a peaceful state, in a quantumous state.
Amen.
A truly objective state. Okay. So it's a much broader perspective, and it's also very subjective. So it leaves out all of this about, like, we know, like, don't do things to other people that they don't want done to them. Like, okay, follow the golden rule. But your conscience will tell you, right? Your conscience will always tell you right from wrong. Okay? So following that and recognizing that when we're talking about sin, or when it shows up in these teachings, if you look at it as an agitation in the mind, a reaction that we're having to something or to the world or to ourselves and our own behavior, whatever that is, that's what we're talking about. Okay. And he puts it beautifully. I think when you look at it in that context, and then you look also at that quote, it's a mistake. It's wrong thinking, so to speak, or, as opposed to right thinking or right thought, right speak, right action. It's a misjudgment and a misunderstanding.
Well, in the piece I want to highlight, it's like you said, Nick, when the mind is agitated. So we know that there's sin. Again, we're not talking about, I went out and stole a bunch of stuff from the bank or whatever. It's just somewhere, and we bring in the other laws. Somewhere we have maybe through the law of thinking, mind action, we're thinking negative things about people or ourselves, or we're in jealousy, or we're in resentment. those, when they agitate the mind, just go, well, freaking A, it's a sin because I'm agitated. I'm having a reaction. So here's the thing. The sin is a gift. So I want to like change the whole nuance around it. The sin is a gift because it's the very metric that allows us to wake up and go, what am I doing? What am I saying? Where's my thought flow if I'm so agitated? Because we can't really shift it or transform it unless we look for it and we identify it.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. A beautiful gift. It really does become a metric when we're looking at it, like you said, in this very broad perspective.
Yeah. Which to me is the most useful perspective to look at it.
Yeah.
What I love about that, and I think is so important, is that it gets you out of making it wrong and making yourself wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get out of that whole conversation and into a productive conversation. Okay. So those are usually the things that are loudest in our heads. And that's awesome because that's a big old beacon that says, hey, here's something for us to work on and resolve. Great. Next. Right. So totally objective. Now he goes on to share a really popular story from the Bible where Peter is thinking he's all cool and he's saying, hey, Jesus, how many times should we forgive people? And, 7 times, which is already like more than double like what the law required. Or
Old Testament said back then.
Their rule of thumb was. And Jesus is like, nope. What did he say? 7 times 77? Basically infinite.
Infinite.
He's like, there is no limitation to it.
Right.
There can't be a limitation to it. And Raymond Hollywell says the quality of forgiveness must be as limitless as faith, hope, and love.
It's incredible.
Think about that.
Yeah. Limitless is faith, hope, and love. And this doesn't mean that when someone is mean to you or stealing from you or hurting you, you're just like, happy, I forgive you and don't do anything.
Yeah.
That would be sinning against yourself. Right? That would not be forgiveness. You would just be you'd put yourself back through the pain. So obviously there are things that need to be negotiated, navigated, and taken care of in this physical world. But from the spirit, from the soul, from the heart, when that forgiveness takes place, it's a release of that trauma because holding on to it will be painful. It will be agitating. All we have to do is think about, and maybe some of you have been in this place where you've held on to such resentment and you can't sleep at night, or you start looking old, or your body starts hurting, or you have stomach issues, and there's a constant flow of just agitation or negativity towards someone who's hurt you. That is hurting you more than them.
Yeah. Or an old and repressed.
That's not yet been let go.
Yeah. Those things can really toxify the body. And he talks about that. There's a study that was done where they quantified the emotions.
Right. The lower emotions, right?
They took samples of the perspiration while a person was in these particular emotional states. And what they found was that these lower emotions, guilt being one of the lowest of them, it turns acidic.
Right.
So the
eats away your body.
And that's basically like you're drinking acid.
Right.
You're eating acid. Every time that you hold those thoughts in your mind, every time that you go there and get into that space, you are essentially eating acid and burning your brain and burning your body.
Right.
Right. And it seems kind of severe, but think about it. Like resentment is truly like drinking poison and then expecting the other person to get sick.
You're just hurting yourself.
It's so absurd when we think about it that way. But what I see a lot of, and certainly what I've experienced in myself, is that there's a tendency to want to justify it, to be righteous in your judgment or in your criticism or in your resentment or in your hurt, to justify that. And all that really does is just dig you in deeper.
It really does. I mean, I know when I think back at times where I held on to something, but it was just, what was the point? You know? And I think a lot of times we might not pause and realize there's another way to be. Like, yes, it's okay to have emotions. Yes, it's okay to be upset and to be angry or to be sad or to be hurt. These are emotions. The question is, how long do you want to feel that way?
Right.
How long do you want that to really take hold of your mind and your spirit? Once we ask that question, then it's a easier process to let go and to forgive.
Yeah. Some of the reasons that people hold on to that is because it fuels them.
It fuels them through the drama and the trauma. It gives them a sense of purpose, which is way upside down.
Well, yeah, I'm going to prove myself to you, or I'm going to prove you wrong, or I just need that extra fuel or that extra anger to drive forward. And you can do that. It's not a very sustainable model, and you will most definitely break things in your life.
Right.
And the invitation is to just consider that there is an easier way. And it has to do with that deep inner work in ourselves of really looking at what's going on inside of us, what we're actually holding on to, not happying over and saying it's fine when it's totally not.
Right.
And being willing to really explore that.
Yeah. That analogy of the garden I thought was pretty amazing, where the weeds are that lack of forgiveness. So every time there's resentment or anger, whatever, they're like weeds in our being. And weeds they grow, right? They don't need a lot of fertilizer. So even when we do fertilize, it's like it's taking over our being. We've got to pluck those weeds so that what we do want to expand and grow in our life does so.
He says here, weeds do not remove themselves in time. Instead, they will increase and grow stronger until they choke out the flower.
No fun.
The same thing is true of our sinful thoughts. In the garden of our memory, they must be plucked out, cast out, and destroyed so that only flowers of healthy and happy thoughts may grow. Now, this is where I just think it gets so interesting in the realm of healing. And there are no shortage of truly miracle healings that happened because people's sins were removed. And when we mean sins, we're talking about mental agitation. Okay, so you got all this congestion in your head, all these congested thoughts, and your head's just going a million miles a minute. And it's just congested, dirty, messy, tangled up weeds, right? Just think tangled up weeds in your head. All right, so all of that's going on. And sure enough, like that will drain your energy.
Right.
It will toxify your body, like we've already seen.
For sure.
It will cause you to break things in your life. But it's all happening in the mind. It's happening in the mind first.
Right.
So it's that mental level that's rippling out and then having an effect on the physiology and then rippling out into the life with our relationships, with our business and our money.
And what we're attracting back because of the very frequency of those thoughts going out. We heard when we talked about the law of thinking.
Exactly.
So it's really amazing how these laws work together. And when they're not in sync, lack of harmony.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really where that's a big place for the healing. So when you think about it like that, when we start to clean up these things in the mind, it's not just a matter of like thinking happy thoughts. Okay, this is misunderstanding this law is actually one of the biggest reasons why people dig themselves deeper into it. Because they think, okay, this is the misunderstanding. When a person thinks, all right, well, I'm having a lot of negative thoughts. My head is super congested. I'm just going to think happy thoughts. Okay, great. Now you're thinking a bunch of happy thoughts, but underneath that,
exactly,
you basically just took a bunch of topsoil and you threw it over all the weeds. So the weeds are covered up for a minute.
But they're also fertilized.
They're also fertilized because they have a bunch of other stuff and they're impacted. And so they're going to come back with a vengeance.
Right.
Sooner or later.
And it's often shocking how it comes back especially when I have someone come in who has a lot of anger, resentment. They have not forgiven something or someone, and they might be a meditator. They're doing a certain type of meditation, which just makes them sit in silence and have a mantra. Yet they're shocked at how easily they can percolate up into anger. And so when we explore, now this isn't everyone. I know some of you have great meditation practices, but trust me, I've seen this again and again. When we explore what's going on, sure enough, there is something that has not been forgiven. They have not let go. So that very meditation that they're spending 20 minutes a day on or more is actually fertilizing it.
Yeah.
And one little trigger, it's like lighting the match and the rope goes, And once we're able to resolve that and get to the forgiveness piece, like you said, Nick, that's when the healing begins.
Well, once those things are literally weeded out, which is
plucked out,
plucked them right out, right? There's different ways to do that. What we do with Energy Mastery is to truly resolve those things.
So important
with a specific tool, and then also with a process to unwind that tangle. Okay, so now that they're out, what does that do? It allows space.
Right. And what are you going to put into the space?
Right. What will you allow in? Because the void will be filled.
It will be.
But it makes a space for new,
right,
fresh,
right,
loving, happy,
positive,
vital, right? All of those things. That's your natural state. So if you're trying to be happy and having to force yourself into that and just think happy, 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 like that's okay in a pinch, but over the long term, it's not sustainable. But when you do the deeper work to really weed those things out and create that void, you return to your natural state. And I just think that's the coolest part about it, is like, you don't have to do anything. You actually get to return to the most amazing parts of you that you maybe even forgot about.
And then you get to decide what it is you're going to create, to bring in.
Exactly.
And it's way easier and way faster to manifest when you're clear.
Exactly.
That's why we've got to be clear.
Yeah. Because you're not going against the grain. You're not fighting a battle with your own mind. And it's like, my mind and my heart can't decide, and everybody's in a fight. And it's like, it's just drama.
It is drama.
Forgiveness is the way to let go and to allow that new space in there. And it can be done on so many different levels.
Right.
I think a really important part with this is that it springs from some of the desires that we have, the lower desires. Okay. So when we drop the lower desires, it drops with it those agitations.
Right. And we replace with a higher desire.
Right.
That's the only way to really get rid of a desire is replace it with something higher.
Right. And just keep climbing the ladder. And the reason I bring that up is because he gives a great example in here with alcohol, and you can substitute any other, addiction that you might have in your life. Cupcakes, coffee, whatever. Not giving up my coffee. Really loving it these days. Anyway, regardless, you keep going back in there and you still have the desire. So that's how you can have an alcoholic who is 30 years sober, who's basically still an alcoholic, because they still have the desire, and that will still agitate the mind. They're still going to have to fight against that. When they drop the desire to drink is when the agitation is gone. That is what is termed forgiveness or absolution, so to speak.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really powerful when you think about that.
I love too how he says, if you hold in your mind that someone has wronged you or has treated you unjustly, you cannot be free from your wrongdoings or injustice so long as you hold that thought in your consciousness. I'm like, whoa. So
read that again.
Okay. Yeah. It's such a mind bender. If you hold in your mind that someone has wronged you or has treated you unjustly, so not letting go, not forgiving someone else, you cannot be free from your wrongdoings or injustice so long as you hold that thought in your consciousness. So we might feel like, oh, I did whatever. I picked an apple off of the neighbor's tree. I'm just making something up. Oh, it's okay. Like I'm forgiven. I'll go and apologize or whatever. It will go away if you're holding on to something against someone else. It won't be clear. It won't be absolved. You won't be free. You might think so, but it doesn't work that way through the law.
Right. It's an active process.
It really is. Forgiveness is an active process, and it's not always an easy process. So I think when we just go back and look at why it's so important for that health of you, for the whole mind, body, soul, clarity and vibrancy, and to be able to live life like you want, there's a deeper inspiration to forgive. And it doesn't mean that you're, burying memories or whatever, and you understand if you've been hurt or wronged, but just like let go of it, really forgive and understand. One of the things that really helped me back to the Vedanta piece is the quote that Swamiji would always use is, I think it's the Mark Twain quote, forgiveness is the fragrance a violet emits as the heel crushes it. Meaning that violet knows we humans are always walking around stepping on flowers, yet it does what it does. It emits a fragrance. So it's understanding who somebody is. It's understanding their nature. It's just like we would look at a lion. You know, they're going to rip someone apart or something apart. We know that. And as we learn from, you know, who our fellow humans are, and if they hear us, we understand that's who they are.
Yeah. And this is the highest perspective of that. Like, this is where you're moving into a much more highly objective state. And some days you might be there and some days you might not.
Some days you might not.
Okay.
I get it.
On the days that you're there, that's the beauty of it, is that you're not going to be bothered by anything or anybody, because you can just look at them and see who they are and be like, cool, that's who you are. Right? That person is an angry person. Great. You know, you can be angry over there. Like, I got some other stuff to do, but no harm, no foul. Like, you go do your thing. Right?
Yeah.
I'm just not, I don't
Go
want to
be an angry bunny.
Yeah.
Right.
Go be angry. You know, or whatever it is that that person's always late. Okay. That's a late person.
That's a late person. Do not expect them to be on time. You'll be disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah. New Yorkers, when you come out, or Midwesterners, when you come out to California, just a lot of late people out here. They just are.
Yeah.
You know, not all of them.
It's
but
different.
It's kind
different.
of a regional thing. You know,
Yeah.
it's just, we have a different
Time
idea around
zone,
time
yeah.
out here. And that was really like weird to me at first, you know, coming from the Midwest. It's like, and especially as a musician, like, if you're going to be somewhere, you be there, you know,
Right.
early.
Right. Definitely early, ready to go for sure.
You know, but that acceptance, but I want to pitch that up, that truly objective state, as a possibility for each and every one of us. And also accepting really where we're at in the moment.
That's really good.
So if you
I think that's really important.
If you're having a day where everything and everyone is bugging you, cool. Like, don't make it wrong, but we do need to do something to rectify that, or else you're going to spin out and you're just going to pile more agitation on more agitation. And this is why people live for the weekend, or they live for a vacation, so that they have enough space to try and just dump some of that out and return to their homeostasis.
Right. Or have 5 drinks at night to try and numb out or to feel something.
Exactly. Waiting for quitting time to go and, you know, numb out for a while in front of the tube, or with, you know, whatever it is that you do. That is not, again, like, do you really want to live like that? There's a better way.
Right. There's
a better way. And it happens through forgiveness. He said it like you brought that quote. Like, I just love that quote from it. It's the first step to bringing you in harmony with your full potential, that highest version of you. However, if you bypass it and just try to skip right there and skip over all the little things, what you wind up is out of integrity, and you wind up lying to yourself.
Absolutely. And if we're not forgiving of others or situations, how can we expect to be forgiven for whatever we're doing that's against the law, so to speak? You know, wherever because look, #humans, right? I mean, through the course of a 24-hour period, if we go through that introspection, look at all the times we might hold a grudge or have resentment or be annoyed, technically that's going against the law. We are human. So in order to clear that, to solve it, we have to as well be willing to forgive other people.
That's so cool that you just said that. I was just looking at this one. Our willingness must open the way for our forgiveness. We dare not ask more of the law than we are able to extend to ourselves or to our brothers.
Dare not ask more of the law than we're able to extend to ourselves or others. That's pretty amazing.
That's it.
That's using the law.
Yeah.
I think, so I hope those of you that have been listening to the series, you're beginning to see that's using the law to to living a glorious life.
Yeah.
We are put here actually to be divinely happy and receptive and creating and expressing and manifesting. Yet these laws are presented towards when we use them, they work.
Yeah. And I want to take a few moments just for instruction.
Oh, great.
Like, what do you do?
Let's give some tips.
And to develop the attitude of forgiveness and bring that into your life. And I think about it as, you know, back to extreme ownership. I love this concept I wish I had invented the phrase.
It's such a great phrase.
It's such a great phrase, but I'm happy to co-opt it. And thank you, Jocko Willink, for that.
Yeah.
But extreme ownership of exactly where you are. So that's where I was talking about, like, sure, like hold your ideal of totally objective, just accepting people for exactly who they are without a care in the world, without it affecting your mental peace in the least. That's awesome. Really cool. And you got to own where you're at that moment, at that day.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody in the line, or let's say somebody cuts you off in the road and you get angry with them, that's okay. Don't make it wrong, except that you're angry. Cut the cords and move on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do whatever you need to do. But if you keep going around that and you're chasing that person down the freeway, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And you're the problem.
You've become the problem.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it's really that extreme ownership. Now, I think where a lot of this gets left in the lurch, so to speak, is where, okay, you've dealt with it within yourself and you're cool with it, but maybe somebody else isn't.
Yeah.
Right? Now, it's not your responsibility. In my mind, it's not your responsibility to go and like make that person happy. But if you know that you've done somebody wrong, you need to do something about that.
It's helpful to make amends.
It really is so helpful because that external piece goes so far to just cleaning up the energetics between the two people. And then it's off of you.
Right.
So it's not really for them. It kind of is for them. If you care about that person, it can be for them, but it's for you.
Yeah. You've done your role. You've done your part. They get to choose if they accept. So if you have to make an apology, if I'm getting this right, you have to make an apology or give an apology. You don't have to, but you choose to. They get to choose to accept it. Yeah, if it's a heartfelt apology and one has made amends, that's for them.
Exactly.
And then it's like, okay, either they accept or they don't.
Yeah. They can keep going around the same story if they choose to continue to be offended. And that's not your business now. Now your conscience is clear, right? That little voice in your head is able to say, you know what? I did what I needed to do for me and to make the situation right. And we're good.
Yeah. And I would add as well, to the best of your ability, sometimes we'll find a ripple effect. You might have done something and then something else goes and you might feel badly. To the best of your ability.
Right.
We cannot change the past, yet we heal the past by the attitude and the forgiveness that we hold in this moment.
Exactly.
And like you said, that's when forgiveness becomes an active nature.
Yeah. I really do think of it as an active, it's an active practice. It's something that we take with us everywhere in life because, well, #humans, right? They're everywhere. We're surrounded. All you aliens out there. We're surrounded with humans and it's our constant work to forgive them, to forgive ourselves, to really and truly come to that place of acceptance while still standing for what you believe in the world. Like make a strong stand. We're not saying lay down and just
not agree with everybody else just to be nice. It's not that at all.
Yeah, exactly. So I can only speak for myself and say that my life has changed immeasurably with this attitude of ownership.
Yeah.
When I do something wrong, like
it's so powerful. It provides also so much confidence because just going through, when we own something, when we go through that, it can be uncomfortable. We're not sure of the outcome. Yet the more we do that, the clearer we are. And there is a sense of certainty and confidence.
Right. And you're not fooling anybody. Like when you screw up, everybody knows.
Yeah.
Like maybe not everybody, but the important people know.
Yeah,
like they know.
Usually.
But so you can try to hide out behind it, but really it's so much more freeing to just say, hey, I recognize that this was my role in this.
Yeah. Exactly.
And how it works in relationship, especially an intimate relationship, is for each person to take 100% responsibility. And what they wind up doing from that space is you allow that space for forgiveness between the two of you, which creates a much, much deeper connection and a much deeper acceptance of that individual.
Right.
So it gets us out of that codependent kind of pleasing and all that kind of stuff and back into your true brilliance. And then those two come together to create something even cooler.
Right.
Within the relationship, but it only happens through forgiveness.
Yeah. I would venture, I know this is a big topic, but even in separations and divorce or partnerships of businesses, things can get so contentious and angry. And when we are able to recognize what was on us, where did we miss, the points, where were we creating agitation or whatever, and then to have forgiveness for the other person involved, it's going to be an easier resolution of whatever the outcome is going to be.
Yeah. Yep. It's just going to make everything easier and better. The more that you dig your heels and prove yourself right and resent all over that person, the more stuck everything is going to be. And it's just going to be at loggerheads. And if that's the way you want to live your life, that's cool. I don't know too many people who want to do that, but they choose it regardless, right? By default.
Right.
So it's really, really interesting. And humans do crazy stuff. Humans lie. Humans cheat. They do all kinds of silly things. He puts it so beautifully. It's a mistake. It's a misunderstanding.
It's a mistake.
And you can say like, oh, well, they knew what they were doing. You can't call that a mistake. In the higher perspective, it's a mistake.
It's disobeying the laws.
Right. Because and he uses the example here, super, super powerful, of Jesus on the cross. Not that I'm whole into the whole, that's just kind of heavy.
Supreme teacher though.
But what did he do? Forgive them. They know not what they do.
Yeah. He just called it.
Right. These people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They have no idea what they're doing right
In other words, they don't know
They have no idea.
Whole other podcast. They don't know what's coming. They don't know what
They have no idea. But that's true in so many respects. Even when people when people are malicious, not even they seem malicious, when they do malicious stuff, it's because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're actually creating in their life.
Exactly.
They're in a very limited perspective with really centered on their own personal or selfish gain. And they don't care.
Well, I would put it this way, just to be super clear. If someone steals your money, yes, they know they're reaching their hand into your bag and they're taking money. I think what you're talking about, Nick, is they don't understand the karma involved. They don't understand what they're doing at a soul level for them. There's a whole connect the dots forward that they don't understand.
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay. Yeah.
That is exactly what I'm saying. What I'm not saying is just let them take your money. Yeah. Call them out on that.
Yeah. They know they're taking your money.
Don't allow people to steal from you, and definitely do your part. That's your ownership in it. Hey, you're stealing. That's you helping them to not steal, is by calling them out. That's your job,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So extreme ownership. That's number
powerful.
One. It's really taking full responsibility for what's going on in your head and for what actions you're taking in your life. Total ownership, 100% responsibility over that. The second thing is a little more simple. If you want to be able to have a window into that, is just start making a list. Just make a list for yourself of all it could be a list of names, and whatever they've done or not done.
People or things you haven't forgiven, you mean?
Yeah.
Make a list of things not yet forgiven.
Yeah. Make a list just so that you know what's rolling around in your head. Because if it's coming out of your head, it's up there.
Well, and let me clarify this too. It's because you're like, oh, no, I'm good. I don't have a list. So let's put it this way.
Yeah, right. Famous last words.
If someone pings you and you're annoyed with them, write their name down.
You got a list.
Right? There's the list. So that's how nuanced it is. It could just be someone's fleeting, it's like, oh yeah, that person or this. If they're showing up and you get that in your gut, or you have an agitation or just a negative thought form towards that person, put them on the list and let's work on forgiving them.
Right.
Because it's eating you. It's not eating them. It's eating you.
Right. And rightfully so. You might say, well, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal in my life. But
if it shows up, it's a big deal, actually.
It is. It's there.
It's a point of not being clear. And we're looking to get as clear as we possibly can as humans.
Exactly. And I'm always curious about these things because you never know when you stumble across the tip of the iceberg. It's that one little thing. And then you start to look a little deeper and you're like, whoa, this is really showing up in a lot of areas of my life, and that's talk about a mother load,
right.
and how much lighter you can walk when you happen to stumble across one of those things. Well, stumble across is maybe not the right word. It's like they kind of bloom,
right.
And then you're ready,
right?
And then you see it and then you can go in and start to solve it.
Exactly.
So make yourself a little list, not to dwell on, just to get it out of your head and to really look at it and have the opportunity to take that ownership and say, yep, that was in my head.
Right.
Great.
Fascinating.
Now we can solve it. So let's talk about some ways that people can do that.
Okay.
Your meditation pod is pretty awesome.
Oh, the meditation pod, 5 meditations with purpose. So, just a little sidebar, when we talk about meditation, this is also in my core science of meditation. Meditation, the absolute, is focusing on one mantra, usually Om, at the exclusion of everything else. Meditation is not a practice, it's an arrival. Most humans are not ready to meditate in that absolute form. So there's all these different apps and ways and meditation. Like I mentioned earlier, people would come to me. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm meditating, yet they'd be flying off into anger. So I created the meditation pod, and the way it's created, they're meditations with a certain frequency that actually allows the clearing and the solving to happen, so that as you download the energy, you're cleared first. It's just so cool. And there is a meditation in there on forgiveness, on letting go.
Yeah.
And it's very popular with my people. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
So you get to have me take you through the process of letting go.
Yeah. It's really wonderful.
Yeah. It's actually kismaawake.com/meditation-pod. And we'll put it in the show notes. It's only $27 and you have 5 meditations you can do for the rest of your life.
Yeah. That's amazing. And they're extremely powerful.
Downloadable audios. Yeah. Super cool.
If you want to take a deeper dive into it, then there's no better system than Energy Mastery. Energy Mastery is a system of tools that cleans up both the energy, in the outer, but most importantly, especially for forgiveness, is unwinding all of those mental patterns and programs, which is basically the psychology of the challenges that we see in our lives, and unwinding all of those things so that you can truly restore in a very quick way back to your full potential, back to, towards that harmonization that Raymond Hollywell talked about here, and that we all know is there within each and every one of us. It's about unwinding those patterns in order to restore ourselves to that. And it is truly incredibly fast and effective. So it's not something that's like, I got to go do this 3-hour process to
it's really great.
heal my childhood. No, you get to solve all this stuff in a much more simple and systematic way. It's something that you can really take into your life, so that, like we talk about forgiveness being a living practice. Okay, well, when something comes up in your everyday, you don't have to go run and, go do your process and all that kind of stuff. You can actually just do a quick little thing and solve it on the spot.
Yeah, it's
and
so
get
effective.
out of it and get back to being awesome.
Right.
That's really what that's about.
It's so great.
And then lastly, I would say for somebody who if you're really tangled up and you really want some personal support, is just reach out to us. For Energy Mastery, go to energymastery.info/energy. And
apply there.
That'll take you to an application form, and we'll have a conversation about it.
We'll put everything in the show notes too. And to reach out for some private care is info@sourcemovement.com.
Yeah, just say.
And it's always going to start, it's just being honest. Oh man, that the honesty and the reflection, observing where those pings happen, where those, what's happening in your body. If you're getting headaches and muscle joints or something, there's a thing to look at.
Yeah.
People are always surprised at when they resolve and solve things, how their bodies feel better as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing.
Our body does what our mind is telling it to do.
Right. And this is truly about accelerating that process, so that it doesn't take years in therapy or all these other things in order to, try and solve some of the stuff. We can actually do it much more quickly.
Absolutely.
So those are our tips. You got any other tips?
I'd be kind with yourself.
Oh, thanks for saying that.
I
That's
really
a really
do. Yeah, because it is big work. And so if you set out to forgive and it doesn't quite go the distance, be kind, be gentle. For me, it's always one of the things I always share with my clients when there's a person in their life that's super frustrating or hurtful. Is like, just look at their soul. Think of them. They've got a soul. And there's a lot going on in the human condition personality right now that might not be attractive, but somewhere there is a soul. And so you kind of want to see the highest and best. And just like we talked about the law of increase, the law of mind action, see it, the law of supply. If you can conceive of it, that person can also, blossom as well as you. You know, it's another way. If you can't see yourself forgiving, it'll be trickier. So take a few moments and just visualize yourself letting go.
That's really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Big one. Let us know if you need help with this. It truly is. It's an ongoing life conversation. The more that you forgive, let go of the mistakes, the misjudgments, the quote unquote sins, the clearer and lighter you will feel. There's no way around it.
I suspect this won't be our last podcast on forgiveness.
Of course.
But in the meantime, everybody, give it a like and a share. If you've got somebody in your life that could really stand to hear this, please, by all means, feel free to share just real gently. Hey, I think you might like this one.
It also helps us incredibly if you go to iTunes and rate us in the Apple world, give us a rating. That really helps to pop up and reach more people. And all the links we talked about, the meditation pod, applying for energy mastery, the 9 habits for super successful people, everything will be in the show notes. And just go out there and practice the art and law of forgiveness.
Peace.
Namaste. Hey, thanks for jamming with us today. And if you enjoy Illumination Podcast, please go ahead and share it with someone you love. Give us a rating, review, download our podcast. And remember, you can find us at illuminationacademy.net/podcasts. Talk to you soon. Namaste.